Regular programming will not be seen tonight due to the following WRAL documentary.
I'm sitting here across from you this morning, and if I did not know that you were a transgender person, I would have absolutely zero idea.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we're just people like anybody else.
Pretty much all my life, I didn't really listen to gender roles or anything. I just kind of was like, this is what I like, this is who I am. And I can't really change that.
There's nothing about being trans that I would have chosen this. As a child, I prayed and prayed and prayed, God, make me a girl, or make me not want these things.
This is not a choice. This is a way that you're born.
Most every day we are surrounded by people who are just like anybody else. But are they? As you just saw, sometimes it's hard to tell. What about that person you just passed on the street, in the grocery store, at the bank, at the post office, where you work, where you worship, even in the restroom? Are you sure they're just like anybody else? Maybe they're transgender. Getting accurate numbers can be difficult. However, it is believed about 0.3% of all adult Americans are transgender. We have discovered there is confusion as to what the word transgender means. Those we spoke with define themselves this way: a person whose gender differs from the one they were given when they were born. Sounds simple enough, yet the life of a trans man or trans woman is anything but simple. Tonight, a look inside the personal lives that have been transformed.
I just like being able to put my soul into a painting or an art piece.
Art is just one aspect of the complex life of E.J. Greaves.
I began my transition about 9 or 10 years ago.
And you're now 35.
I am, correct.
I'm sitting here across from you this morning, and if I did not know that you were a transgender person, I would have absolutely zero idea.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we're just people like anybody else.
Meet another person who just wants to be like anybody else. Sharon Westfall spends much of her days online, looking for work. Her LinkedIn page tells part of her complex story.
Your name is Sharon.
Sharon.
It wasn't always Sharon.
Was not.
It was Scott.
Born Scott Douglas Westfall.
That was almost 55 years ago. She transitioned in the last year. She talked with us at a downtown Raleigh restaurant.
But I always knew there was a difference, and I always knew something was wrong.
You notice her voice is a little strained. Her vocal cords are still recovering from surgery.
For most of my life, living as Scott was something that was acceptable. It's not who I felt I was inside. It's not who the genuine me is, but it wasn't terrible. I would dress as Sharon and go out a couple nights a week, and I would go over to Greensboro so I didn't run into anyone who knew me as Scott. And then I would live and work as Scott the rest of the time. Feelings of suicide were part of what prompted my transition, that I could not take living as a divided person.
For E.J., those same dark thoughts began when he was a teenager.
I just felt like I had no hope. I was very confused, and I was very, destitute, and just couldn't figure out why I felt so different and why I felt so depressed, and why I could not just be normal and happy like other people.
Tell me about your transformation.
For me, it was really a life or death situation. I don't think if I would have transitioned, I would still be here today. I wasn't happy with the person that I was. At some points in my life as a teenager, I was definitely suicidal.
Facing rejection, discrimination, even abuse explains why 41% of transgender Americans have attempted suicide. 41%. Staggering, especially when you compare that to overall U.S. population attempts of 4.6%.
I basically found myself and found my happiness through my transition. I'm a much happier person. I'm a much more confident person. I'm a much more whole person.
Transition threw a hand grenade into my life. I'm trying to reassemble my life. I'm trying to find work. I'm trying to mend my relationship with my wife to make sure that that continues.
You heard right.
I'm married to a woman.
Her wife.
She did not know I was trans when I got married.
Sharon has been married for 32 years.
And I'm still very attracted to her and very much in love with her. But it's become complicated for her because she did not marry a woman and is not attracted to women.
When did you first tell her?
About 5 years into to being married, I needed to tell her because I didn't want her to discover it by accident.
Sharon's wife did not want to speak with us. A person's transition can be a real struggle for loved ones.
How is your family with your life?
My dad wasn't always supportive, but honestly, the rest of my family has been wholeheartedly behind me.
Has part of your transformation involved surgery?
Definitely. I've had chest surgery to reduce the breast tissue in that area, and that's something that definitely made me a lot more comfortable and secure in my body.
And hormone therapy?
Yeah, I've been on hormones. It'll be it'll actually be 9 years that I've been on them, and I take a weekly dose of the hormones and inject it into my thigh, and that helps to masculinize.
But will there come a time where you won't need that?
If I decide to get a hysterectomy, you can lower the dosage. But basically, for most people, they continue that on unless they have a reason not to.
The facial feminization surgery for me was the #1 most important thing to help me feel better about who I am and see the person I am on the inside reflected on the outside. I had jaw and chin recontouring, brow reduction to remove my brow ridge, at which point they recontour my nose, a nose lift, cheek implants, lip lift to make the lips fuller and a more female profile between the nose and the upper lip, upper bleph, facelift. So it's a pretty stark difference.
Not all transgender people have surgery or procedures. It's time-consuming, expensive, and painful. That pain is also felt in the words of strangers.
I've had people call me fag and stuff like that.
Is fag the worst thing you've been called?
Not directly. I mean, people come up with some pretty creative wording to try to put you down.
I've had snide remarks made as I've walked around, and even before HB2, but now people feel justified, empowered.
Do you find yourself afraid?
Yes.
Of?
You wonder, when is it my turn to get beat up? When is it my turn to be attacked?
Next, how HB2 has impacted their lives in the past 2 months.
If I walked into the women's restroom,
Not which one is appropriate for me,
I mean, think about the kind of uproar.
but which one am I less likely to get beat up for using?
I love it here. I was a little skeptical first moving to the South, just because you hear those stories about how people can be a little bit conservative. And with House Bill 2, I mean, it's just makes life uncomfortable.
House Bill 2. We probably wouldn't be producing this documentary at this time if it weren't for that law. Passed quickly by state lawmakers in March, it now has North Carolina locked in litigation with the federal government. And it's bringing a lot of national attention to the state as well.
This law provides no benefit to society, and all it does is harm innocent Americans.
The fact that you don't understand that traditional Americans, all right, trying to raise their children in a certain way, do not want that kind of an exposition in front of young children. The fact that you don't understand it.
I think the real irony of this bathroom bill is that Bathroom Bill sounds like the perfect name for a restaurant pervert. We got a real Bathroom Bill in here, peeking under the stalls. Get out of here, and don't just put on a wig and come back as Bathroom Jill.
North Carolina, they're checking for vaginas. If you want to use the can.
All the attention brings some awareness, but for Sharon, EJ, and others, HB2 complicates an already complex situation.
If I walked into the women's restroom, I mean, think about the kind of uproar and discomfort that would make women feel. Like, I wouldn't want to do that to them in a place that they're supposed to feel safe and secure.
So what do you do now?
I just use the men's restroom. I'm not changing anything about what I'm doing.
I wonder every time I go to the restroom. I look at the two choices, and I honestly look at those choices and wonder not which one is appropriate for me, but which one am I less likely to get beat up for using. I'm Sharon Westfall.
Sharon and others recently met with lawmakers to push for a repeal of HB2. While at the state legislative building, she followed state law.
I feel very uncomfortable going in there. It also is a way of screaming that I'm a transgender woman, where I don't feel like I should have to announce my presence or my difference to people.
She even comes armed with this handout, about the size of a business card. This printout explains why she, a woman, is using the men's restroom.
I apologize for any awkwardness caused by my presence in the men's room, but HB2 requires me to use the men's room on any government property.
For me and people like me, it just feels that, you know, that we're on the outside of a society that's supposed to be welcoming of all people.
There's nothing about being trans that I would have chosen this. It has been the single biggest struggle of my life, has complicated my relationships with everyone I know, has now threatened and challenged my relationship with my wife of 32 years. As a child, I prayed and prayed and prayed, God, make me a girl, or make me not want these things. Make me just like the other boys who are happy to be who they were born. And it was agony my whole life.
This is not a choice. This is a way that you're born. It's a birth difference, a birth defect, however you want to look at it.
We talked with Kimball Sargent, a therapist who's worked with transgender men and women here in the Triangle for 20 years.
You know, just like a club foot or a cleft palate, we would never say that that is a choice. And we would never say that someone needed to walk around with a cleft palate without surgery.
Her oldest patient, 82. Her youngest, just 2 years old.
Nobody is born and thinks, oh, would it be interesting to just try a different gender? I mean, this takes a lot of energy and effort.
For those not familiar with the medical diagnosis of gender dysphoria, she helped explain it in part this way.
Our body parts do matter. Why do women who have mastectomies, we got to put those breasts back? That's a part of our identity. With men, I'd tell them, just imagine for a minute your penis is gone. And your wife or your husband says, oh, I love you just the same. Well, they might, but how would you feel when you woke up in the morning? I mean, that's really what we're talking about.
As for relationships, the complications and variations are the same everyone else deals with. Gender, who you are, and sexuality, who you're attracted to, are separate. Sharon very much wants to stay with her wife. EJ has been dating his boyfriend for 5 years. Another challenge, finding a job. Transgender people are twice as likely to be unemployed.
In your workplace, does it matter?
Not really. I recently started a new job, and they don't know about my background. And in all honesty, it doesn't matter. I do feel very lucky to work for the company that I work for because they are very welcoming of diversity. Even in their discrimination clause that I signed when I started there, they do have transgender in there, which is something that you don't very often see.
So are you running a risk by doing this interview?
No, not at all.
For Sharon, her job search is full speed ahead now that she's transitioned. But her decades as Scott cannot be ignored. It's why she has his picture and his name along with hers on her LinkedIn page. It's one element of the effort to rebuild.
I tell people that the struggle in my life, the great struggle, has not been to find acceptance from others. It has been to find acceptance from myself. Because I grew up in this society, programmed with the messages that tell me that what I want and what I feel makes me a bad person. And it's really hard to rise above those feelings.
I welcome people to learn about my background. It's not something that I hide. It's something that I'm proud of. It's just not something that I openly wave in people's faces.
Up next, WRAL's Catherine Brown with a story of a teenager's transition and its impact on the family.
Well, my first reaction was to cry for 2 days because I was mourning the loss of my little girl, and not because he was a transgender person. Well, this one was when Adrian was a few days old.
He was born Megan Joy.
This next one is when he was 2 years old, and we thought that he was girly.
He was a girl. It's just that Adrian Chamberlain never quite felt like one.
Like, I was a tomboy. I was a very proud tomboy, and I was like, I'm not a girl, I'm a tomboy.
And then this is around the time he didn't want to wear dresses so much, and this is when he was 10.
Pretty much all my life, I didn't really listen to gender roles or anything. I just kind of was like, this is what I like, this is who I am. And I can't really change that.
Adrian's parents weren't concerned.
It's more just wondering when he was going to be interested in girl things, the makeup and the clothes and whatnot.
In middle school, when I was trying to kind of discover my sexuality, I just thought I was confused because I didn't really know what being gay was.
Confusion led to anxiety and depression.
You kind of lose your sense of self.
When he was 14, he said to me one day, I think I might be gay.
But something clicked when Adrian met other transgender and LGBT students in high school.
It gave me so much, sense of identity and, like a group that I could belong to.
He gathered the family together in the family room and actually put it up on the TV.
Yes, he had a PowerPoint presentation for us before he came out.
Adrian's presentation for his family was on gender and sexuality.
He had it all detailed out for us. I still have to refer to it to understand really what where he is and especially where other people are.
Soon after his presentation, Adrian told his family he was transgender.
Well, my first reaction was to cry for 2 days because I was mourning the loss of my little girl, and not because he was a transgender person.
At first, I was like, I don't have an older sister anymore. Like, this is my older brother. Like, what? All the thoughts were just kind of running through my head. Like, what am I going to tell my friends? Like, what am I going to say? Like, is he my older brother? Is he my older sister? Like, what is he?
Separately, I think we both dealt with it differently for a while. I kind of put my head in the sand for a little while, while at the same time acknowledging his name and his pronoun changes.
But Adrian's family shared one common feeling.
As soon as he came out, we loved him, and that was our only thought.
I love him. Like, yeah.
We realized that we needed to support him as much as we could.
Making it known to him that I will tell the world, like, my brother's transgender, like, who cares?
Nancy Chamberlain let the world know by posting the news on Facebook. She says other family members and friends have been supportive.
Our church friends were extremely accepting. The first time I saw our pastor after that, he came right over to me and said, how can I support you and Adrian? So that was a really good feeling.
The Chamberlains contacted the Duke Center for Child and Adolescent Gender Care based here at Duke Children's Hospital. It's the first facility of its kind in our state and one of only a few in the Southeast. Center Director Dina Adkins says it offers medical, psychological, and even pastoral care to transgender people.
They're individuals just like everyone else trying to live out a normal, happy, productive life.
The center developed a plan for Adrian's transition. Adkins says the most important part is parental support.
If you're supportive and you love them and care for them, then that's the best you can do.
In Adrian's case, consider that done.
I love him. There was really no choice in my mind to not accept him. Yeah, I love him unconditionally. I always will.
The Chamberlains say Adrian will need that love as he faces the challenges ahead. The latest one is HB2.
Even though I did plan on starting to use the male bathroom once I started transitioning, it's just like, surprise, no you can't. Even once you become comfortable with it. Even like after I've kind of overcome my anxieties about it, there's just legislation that just says, no, you can't.
Adrian and his parents hope the law is repealed before he looks completely like a man, making it almost impossible for him to use a women's restroom.
I just want to be known as Adrian, a guy, not Adrian, the trans guy who used to be a girl. Just, he's a guy. That's it.
Just a guy. We would like to thank Adrian, Sharon, and EJ for sharing their personal stories of transformation with us tonight. And we thank you for joining us. We have resources online if you would like to know more about the transgender community and resources available for them. Good night.
People constantly will say, oh, Adrian, she, her, girl. But that also kind of, it's mentally draining because you know you're something, but everyone sees you as something else.
Everyone deserves a chance at a decent life and to do the best with what they have and, you know, to be happy to the best of their ability. And that's all that I want.
Different is great. Different is what makes life interesting. I can think of no worse hell than living in a world populated by exact copies of myself. How boring would that be?